do we know about the poles right now? I mean, what's our baseline of information? Tell us about the South Pole for a moment. Very cold. Okay. That was a dead giveaway from earlier. Very cold environment. That's good. Okay. What else do we know?
People live there.
In the North Pole? Oh, in the South Pole. Okay. So in the South Pole, there's no folks that live there. That's true on a year-round basis. Okay. What else do we know? South Pole.
More land animals.
More land animals in the South Pole, we think. Okay.
Continent.
It's a continent. What does that mean, Carol?
One of the 7 large land masses that we refer to as continents.
Okay, so it's a land mass. There's some solid rock under there somehow. Okay. Anything else about the South Pole comes to mind?
Very few plants.
Very few plants. You just don't see those green blooming forests down there, do you? Yeah, in the photos that we see. No, Georgia pines, yeah. All right, so let's shift now to the North Polar region, the Arctic. What do we know about the Arctic?
More water.
More water. Or at least more open water. Yeah, okay. Anything else?
Plenty cold, too.
Glaciers. It's cold, too. Yeah, and that's why you can have glaciers.
Native people.
Native people. Meaning permanent residents. Anything else? All right, well, we won't pass judgment on all those ideas, but those are our sort of perceptions to start with in terms of what the North and South Pole have to offer. The very first activity in the Polar Connections packet helps us start separating the differences between the North and South Pole. When you open the packet up, there's this wonderful beginning activity called Polar Opposites. And the way it's set up is with a little challenge that you can read your students or just describe to them. I'm going to do that for you now, and we'll launch into this challenge. Basically, it says that a group of maintenance workers are sorting through a storage facility in a science museum or natural history museum, and they come upon a variety of steamer chests. And these 2 chests in particular, when they open them up, have sort of half-full batches of artifacts and materials. Now, being smart maintenance workers, and they're getting ready to put this into another storage facility, they say, hey, let's be efficient. They dump one chest into the other, close it up, and haul it off as one big batch of artifacts. Of course, when it arrives at the museum, the curators are frantic, because one of those original chests represented artifacts from a North Arctic expedition by Fridtjof Nansen in the late 1800s, and the other chest was from a Antarctic or South Polar expedition by Shackleton that was done in the early 1900s. Now they've mixed the two together. Our task is to sort these objects out and decide which artifact goes with which polar expedition. I just happen to have the steamer chest, classroom variety here, something that you could build yourselves in your own classroom. It sort of picks up the interest on the part of the kids to do this. And inside the steamer chest are these various artifacts. Let's take a look at what we've got here. I'll open up the activity guide and be sure I'm covering each of them as they come off the list here. All right off the bat, we have a kayak paddle. Use your imagination now. All right, this is a classroom set. So there's the kayak paddle. All righty, we've got here's a neat one. This is a broken altimeter stuck above 9,000 feet. First off, the kayak paddle. Where do you think it belongs? North Pole. Why are you so sure of that? People in the North Pole, and of course the kayak is to move people around, so we'll put the kayak paddle in the North Polar region. What else do we know about that North Polar region? Someone mentioned it earlier. Kayaks are used in the water, so you've got to have open water somehow. Okay. Broken altimeter reading 9,012 feet. South Pole. Why do we say that? Landmass, actual mountains. It'd be pretty hard to get to 9,000 feet in the North Polar area, wouldn't it? So we'll put that one in the South Polar zone. Tuft of black and white feathers. South Pole. Why are you so sure? Penguins. So you don't think it came out of someone's pillow, huh? Okay. So penguin feathers, and we find penguins in the South Polar region. Fishing hook made of bone. North Pole, again, your reason? People live in the North Pole, and they would carve one of those fishing hooks and need to use that for sustenance. Seal skin mucklucks. North Pole, again? People. Where do we find seals? North or South Pole? Both poles. So it's not that the seals can't be found in both poles. It's that in the North Pole, people actually harvest the seals, skin them, and use that skin to make clothing. Okay, so that's a North Polar artifact. Broken thermometer reading minus 90 degrees. Very, very cold. Yeah. Why might it not get that cold in the North Polar region? Well, one of the things that happens is the water itself tends to sort of keep temperatures a little more neutral than freezing cold like that. So the thermometer, we think, comes from the South Polar region. Parker with white fur trim? North Pole. Of course, now again, we've got people doing expeditions in both polar regions, but here we're probably talking about something that's more likely in the Arctic. Ice axe, climbing rope. South Pole is at mountains again, isn't it? So we'll go back to the South Pole. Small ivory carving. And why is that? Okay, not so much the source of the ivory necessarily, although that probably is a strong hint, but also human habitants have done that carving. Snow shovel. Oops. Princess. Okay. Yeah. Either pole, maybe. Yeah. Although, where do you suppose it snows the most? Why is that? Okay, there's more water, so there's more moisture in the air, and perhaps would snow more often from the snow shovel standpoint. But my guess is you could use a snow shovel anywhere in either Arctic zone. But we'll put it in the North Arctic zone here. Box of rock and fossil samples. South Pole. Landmass. Yeah. What would the fossils in the Arctic be? Way down at the bottom of the ocean. That's exactly right. So, the South Polar region for those fossils, and last but not least, a set of 4 horseshoes. South Pole. That's a tough one. Why horseshoes in the South Pole? The early explorers, especially the British explorers, felt that, horses were a beast of burden, and they would carry the loads into the inland area that they wanted to explore on their way to the South Pole, so they loaded up horses and sleds. So sure enough, the horseshoes are coming from the South Polar expedition. That was a hard lesson learned for those explorers.